Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is the biggest disappointment since the Coming Out of Their Shells tour. But unlike that atrocity, which has been allowed to be forgotten by the annals of time, this piece of shit has remained in the public eye for the last 20 years. Now you may ask yourself, how could Mr. Zeon, who defended the next mutation, rip this movie a new fuckhole? Well, it's gonna take a while to explain. So sit back, relax, get yourself some hot pizza rolls, cuddle with a lady friend, and get educated on why this movie is a crime against cinema. Number 1. So who's the bad guy this time? Now for there to be some kind of a conflict in a movie, you normally need someone called an antagonist to create an obstacle for our heroes to overcome. In the first 2 movies, the studio played it safe and went with the franchise's staple villain, the Shredder. But in both of those movies, they fucking killed him. So bringing him back again would be a bit of a cop-out. And instead they decided to take a gamble and leave him dead. And many who criticize this film like to point to the lack of Shredder or any other pre-established TMNT villain as the major reason as to why it sucks. To those people I say, grow up. If your main reason for disliking this movie is because it doesn't have a villain from the cartoon as an antagonist, then I suggest you get back behind the counter of the Burger King that you undoubtedly work at and keep your mouth shut. Just because it has Ninja Turtles in the name does not mean it has to have the classic villains that you're used to. Shit, if that were the case, fans of the comics would hate the beloved 87 cartoon. Oh wait, they do. So you're saying that the movie has good villains? What? No. The villains are terrible. One is a Saturday morning cartoon Nobunaga wannabe, and the other is a discount Kevin Costner. Hell, Lord Noranaga isn't even that bad of a guy. He's just a dude who wants his son back. As for Walker, yeah, he's kinda evil, but we know nothing about the character or his motivations, or why he's so much of a prick. But you just said that the villains aren't the problem. No, I said the lack of pre-established villains wasn't the problem. The bad guys for this movie suck. Not because they aren't pre-existing, but because they're poorly written and underdeveloped. But that's the least of this movie's problems. Number 2. Let's do the time warp again. Where this movie falls apart is at its very premise. Now yes, the Turtles have time traveled before. In fact, I'm pretty sure at this point every incarnation of the Turtles have done it at some point. And that's fine, as you know, a one-off random adventure. But as a story for a whole fucking movie? And it's not like they did anything interesting with this premise. It's just your generic damsel in distress plot with the Turtles going back in time to rescue April. God, just saying it out loud makes it sound like it should be a story for an episode of the old Ninja Turtle cartoon instead of a major motion picture. Another problem with this story is that the TMNT have nothing to do with the conflict that they're caught up in. The villains are barely aware of them, and the Turtles themselves don't even want to participate. The only reason they even get involved at the end is because another female gets kidnapped and the Turtles have to save her. Wow. Good thing this was made before the rise of the neo-feminist. How can we the viewers be expected to fucking care about the conflict in the movie if our heroes don't? And just what is the conflict here? Noranaga wants the scepter, which is rightfully his property. Oh, and I guess he's also at war with Mitsu's rebellion? But why are they at war? Who started it? And who's actually in the wrong? The viewer's left to assume that Noranaga is the bad guy. But that's only because he's the leader of the huge empire. And we just assume that Mitsu is the good guy, because she leads a tiny village that's fighting against the big mean empire. But is she really the good one? I mean, she shoots at April, ambushes the Turtles, tries to go for a killing shot on April, tries to kill Noranaga with a surprise attack, and knew the location of the scepter and kept it from the Turtles. And I know it was her grandfather that was the one that had it hidden, but that would have been after he met the Turtles, and they explained their situation, meaning she would have had to know the scepter was in their possession before it was hidden, and she willingly kept it from them. Now compare this to Noranaga, who's actually keeping all of her people alive, instead of executing them, and he doesn't even have her executed on the spot for, you know, leading a rebellion against his empire, and trying to outright fucking kill him. Sounds like a pretty nice guy thing to do if you ask me. Unlike, you know, sniping a defenseless woman. Also, how is Mitsu even fighting Noranaga? Her village is so small that Walker showed up with like 10 guys and almost destroyed the whole thing. You'd think that one of Norinaga's troops could have beaten the entire village in an afternoon if he really wanted to. So we have a tired rescue story with a time travel gimmick, an unclear conflict that not even our heroes give a shit about, and 2 villains, one of which may be a better person than the actual good guy, and the other one is clearly evil with no depth and motivation to his character. And in case you're wondering if there's any redeeming qualities to this story, to that question I say no. No, there isn't. Moving on. Number 3. The MacGuffin Scepter. Now, time travel is a pretty tricky narrative tool, and a pretty easy one to fuck up. When you send someone back in time, it usually results in a time paradox, where they alter the future and end up never going back in time. Or it creates some sort of horrible butterfly effect, or horrible butterfly effect sequel. Ha ha ha. The best way to go about this would be to probably do a split timeline concept, like in Star Trek, the Star Trek, or have the characters go so far back and interact with people they have nothing to do with, so that it has no impact on them in the future. This movie goes for the latter, and still manages to fuck this up. Like, what the hell is the Time Scepter? Was it made to go through time? Or was it just a coincidence that it can? It's got an incantation written on it, so it must have been made for that purpose. But if that were the case, why didn't Norinaga know about this if it was passed down his family for generations? Also, was Kenshin really the first guy to be like, hey, there's stuff written on here. I think I'm gonna read it. I mean, did no one seriously think about reading this thing before? Like, you know, maybe that guy, or how about that guy? Or has it just been in that statue for all these years? If so, how does Norinaga know what it is? Shit, how does Walker know what it is?
Ah yes, the Golden Scepter. Well, one does hear things.
Yeah, it still doesn't answer my question, asshole. And why would Norinaga think it's a good luck charm and send it into battle? Also, is the Time Scepter magic or science? It's got magic words written on it, yet Donatello uses mathematical equations to figure out how it works. And he even has a replica made, believing that it'll work just like the real one. So I guess it's not magic? And the ancient Japanese figured out how to time travel by attaching an egg timer to a stick? But if it's not magic, why does it have an incantation? Does it have like some voice recognition software? Is it an eye scepter? Does it come with Suri?
Open wide the gates of time.
Where would you like to go?
And why is the incantation written in kanji, but everyone reads it in English?
Open wide the gates of time.
Okay, now the inscription says, open wide the gates of time.
Is it so magical that the language doesn't matter? Oh wait, but I thought it was science, not magic.
Well, I come from a place where they're one and the same thing.
Hey, nobody asked you. Say what you want about Next Mutation, but at least it had the goddamn decency to keep its magic and science segregated. Just the way I like it. Honestly, this is my most hated type of sci-fi and fantasy, where the writer will establish rules, but then constantly break them for the sake of telling the story that they want to tell. Like time travelers switch clothes, but for some reason Kenshin gets to keep his sword, April keeps her Walkman and watch, the turtles keep their everything. Michelangelo even points us out in one scene.
Why are you wearing shorts?
Kenshin switched with April and got her clothes.
Yeah, so?
So, this is for whoever comes through in my place, so they won't arrive bare butt naked.
It's like the writer is saying directly to the audience, yeah, I made this movie for stupid kids that don't know any better. Yeah, well fuck you too, buddy. Also, I guess you don't have to be holding the scepter to be transported by it, since the turtles switched with the honor guards that were mid-battle. And obviously they weren't all holding the scepter. But at the end, Mikey barely misses April's hand, and he gets left behind. So do you need to hold the scepter or not? And why was Mikey on his horse backwards? We see that the scepter places you in the exact same pose that the person you were switching with was in. So was that guy riding his horse backwards? But wait, at the end everyone is reaching out for Mikey like they were in the past. So I guess maybe it's just a case-by-case basis? Or maybe this movie is just an inconsistent piece of shit. Continued in part 2.